Welcome to Amherst Thanks. You've got 60 seconds. We did this 5 years ago at a reunion, and then we were in Merrill too, and now we've moved to the big leagues. We're in Johnson Chapel. Of course, we're up against Dan Brown, who's elsewhere on campus. Please don't leave. And there's also Champions League games starting on anybody who's got a good TV. Thank you, Marty. The way this works is, last time we did it, we had the Dean of Admissions and Financial Aid, our own classmate, Katie Fretwell, who incredibly has a gong at home. And if you go over 60 seconds when we invite you to come up and speak, Katie would hit the gong. This time we don't have Katie, we have Mr. Katie. We have Bob Saul, class of 80, honorary class of 81. Do you want to say anything before we get going?
It kills Katie not to be here, and actually Katie is almost dead at home. So she's hoping she's going to make a great comeback, but as keeper of the gong, I am the alternative and to my better half, and I know if you're crushingly disappointed that Katie's not here, you may get up and leave now.
All right. So we got you all here under false pretenses. Awesome. So the way this works is we'll just say come up to the mic, say something. You have 60 seconds to say, thank Amherst College for something it did for you. Maybe you didn't even recognize at the time that it was something that was turned out to be valuable in your life. And Amherst grads can go on at great length about anything. So that's why we have Bob here with the gong, because 60 seconds, bong, you're out of here, and we got to hand the mic over to the next person. So how to start this? Do we have anybody who's volunteering? I will volunteer just to start it, and then we'll move over here. I'm very thankful to Amherst College for creating a community that I joined in the fall of 1977, and I thought maybe it ends in 1981 when I graduate. No, it continues, and thank you all for being part of that, and I hope I'm part of it too. Nowhere near 60 seconds. Ha! All right. Oh, by the way, when you speak, say your name and what class you're from or whatever your affiliation is, and that way. There you go.
Hello. My name is Steve Roberts. I'm the class of 1976. September 1971, the reception for the incoming freshmen by the president. I was 27. The oldest freshman Amherst had ever admitted, I was told, and very likely the only freshman to have graduated next to last in his high school class. I evidently did enough interesting things in my life to get admitted, but apprehension remained. Could I thrive here? When I met President Bill Ward, he said to me, "Oh, you're the old guy." And then he said the most beautiful thing. "Welcome. You're where you belong. Enjoy yourself." Today, I help people play with provocative questions, such as, what should the sign say over the door of your organization, the sign that you would want every colleague to see every day? If I were asked to answer that question for Amherst, I'd bow to Bill Ward and say, "Welcome. You're where you belong. Enjoy yourself."
Thank you. And right in under the gong, too, which is incredible. To the second. Here you go.
Professor, you know the definition of a PowerPoint? Someone can call for an hour. Let's see. I got a minute. Part of thanking Amherst involves figuring... I'm Rick Teichgraber. I teach intellectual history. I'm by training an academic and intellectual historian. I teach at Tulane University. Part of figuring out how to thank Amherst is figuring out how to describe what happened to you at Amherst. Here's my favorite version of an answer to that story. Some of you may know the novel by Alison Lurie called Love and Friendship. If you don't, you should know it. It was published in 1962. Alison Lurie is a novelist. The protagonist in the novel is a young woman who's married to a young professor at Amherst. Amherst is called Converse College. She had two brothers who went to Amherst, an all-male institution at the time, before she got married, and they would come home every summer, and after they would graduate, saying that they had found themselves at Amherst. And she thought about this for a while, and she said, no, they hadn't found themselves at Amherst, they found something better.
Very nice. Now, don't make me go all Phil Donahue here and walk down the aisles, because I will do that. Feel free to come up and say your piece. All righty. I'm bringing the mic over to you.
Speed Talk, Andy Hutchins, class of 1981. I found myself at Amherst College, and it was totally serendipitous thing as to what I was going to do in my life. At the end of freshman year, I happened to have brunch, with 4 kids that just came back from Leningrad, now St. Petersburg, on a semester abroad program. I had no idea what I really wanted to do as a freshman. After that brunch, I decided, I'm going to be a Russian studies major. I'm going to the Soviet Union. I'm going to improve U.S.-Russia relations. Strangely enough, 38 years later, I'm still trying to improve U.S.-Russia relations. I've been a total failure as relations are worse than they've ever been. But it was that one serendipitous moment with people that I can't even remember what their names are. Thank you to them, and thank you to everybody.
Thank you.
Yes, I'm Liz Hartzell Desimone, class of 81, and I will thank Amherst College and Ed Wall for admitting Sam Desimone. I know that it was quite a reach, but we met here and we've been happily married for close on 35 years.
Thank you.
Very well-disciplined crowd we have.
We did this 5 years ago, and the gong maybe wasn't enough. We were thinking of getting a hook for some guys. So, anybody else? I'm going to walk around here. When you move with the camera, you're going to... I think I see Leo coming. Leo.
Well, first of all, I want to thank Andy Hutchins for letting me be on the 2-mile relay team with him. We set an Amherst College record at the time, largely because of Andy's time. But also, I took a composition course by Professor Getty, who was actually not a full-time Amherst professor. He was a graduate of the class of 1959, and he was a professor at Rutgers, but he came back to visit at Amherst College, and he taught the composition course, which is fairly intense writing course. Every 2 days you had to write a short paper on a topic that he came up with. And one of the questions was, talk about what it's like to be a fan at Amherst. Actually, it wasn't specific to Amherst, it's just talk about what it's like to be a fan. And I wrote my composition about what it's like to be a fan at Amherst, which is kind of unique because, in a way, there really aren't that many fans at Amherst. It's not, I hear about kids wanting to go to college where they have a big Big Ten sports program, and that's not really Amherst. You're not going to go for huge football weekends and that kind of thing, because at Amherst, the thesis of my composition was everybody's so busy doing what they're doing and it's independent in what they're doing is that there's really not enough time to be a fan for somebody else, although everybody's very supportive of what everybody else is doing. So I want to thank Amherst for the independence, the idea that everybody here is doing something constructive in their own right.
Thank you. Come on up.
Not my name tags, I'll have to introduce myself. I'm Emily Van Dyke Frederick from class of 81, and I'm a public school teacher in a small town in Connecticut. I teach French, which I think is pretty rare for someone from Amherst, but I'm thankful for Amherst because most of the people I work with went to college to be a science teacher. So they've got their education classes, they've got their science classes, and that's what they know. And for me, I took everything from, I don't know, ecology to art history to French, a little bit of French, to physiology, to all these classes. And I feel really lucky to have this broad base of knowledge instead of just my subject. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Marty Honigberg, class of 1981. I'm thankful for a number of things about my Amherst experience. I'm mainly thankful for all my friends, the friends that I made while I was here, the friends I've made since, the people who are not part of our class that I've met through alumni events in New Hampshire, Washington, D.C., Boston, even Martha's Vineyard one summer. And the network of people that I was exposed to and have been since graduation is of incalculable value to someone who wants to be social, wants to be part of the world. I'm thankful for a number of specific things that occurred while I was here. I'll mention two of them. One is the opportunity to read the Russian literature through the eyes of Professor Rabinowitz and understand what I was reading, and the opportunity to read James Joyce with Professor Cameron. And I was an economics major, had nothing to do with the English department, and was not a Russian major, but the opportunity to do those things, expand your horizons, as Emily said, and know things that are of not any use to me today in what I do or have ever been used to me professionally, has been wonderful, and I'll never forget it.
Thank you, Marty. I think, yeah, come on up.
I'm Bruce Telegin. I'm class of 1989, so I'm here in an off year because we love Amherst so much. 31 years ago, my father told me, you know, you'll be a student for 4 years, but you'll be an alum for the rest of your life. And when I was here, I took 16 political science classes, but I also took poetry writing and acting. And I also met my wife, and I learned how to read and how to think and how to write. And my wife and I neither have children nor jobs, and we're both writers. And our dorm room is bigger, but basically we live exactly the way we did here at Amherst. It's just we write papers. We always have deadlines, and we're always writing papers. So I learned how to do that here. And having Amherst in common with my father is a great thing. It allowed me to call him up and say, hey, you want to meet up at Amherst for lunch, even though it's not our reunion year. So my father, Henry Telegin, class of 54, is there. And so that, I'm thankful for all of that.
I have a feeling it's a family affair here. Thank you.
I didn't expect to get up. So I am his father. I'm Hank Telegin, class of 54. I always tell everybody the first song my nanny taught me when I was old enough to sing was Lord Jeffrey Amherst. Never did I ever believe that I would come from the streets of Brooklyn to this gorgeous campus, which really prepared me for life in wonderful ways. During all the melee in the past year, on a phone conversation with our chair of the board and Biddy Martin, I posed the question whether we would be allowed to sing the song. And the answer was free speech. The song, I guess, will live as long as I do in my mind. It's been a wonderful experience having been part of this family. And thanks.
Thank you. I was hoping you'd come up.
Hi, my name is Becky Ballard DiLoretto, class of 81. I'm a criminal defense lawyer and a civil rights lawyer, and what I am most thankful for at Amherst when I first think is Bob Williams. And I'm thankful for our cross-country team, for our long Sunday runs, for the mix of the guys and the girls. It was wonderful to have that time to talk with folks and work out with them and support each other. And Bob was wonderful in accepting us. And then I was president of the zoo, and that really helped me a great deal as a criminal defense lawyer. I just had exposure to so much that was just so helpful. A lot of criminals, a lot of mental health issues. So it was very good.
Thank you, Becky.
Cam is a neighbor in New Canaan, Connecticut. Oh. I'm Chris Neuer-Seaver, class of 81, and I'm most thankful to Amherst for kind of opening up the world to me. I grew up in a fairly cosmopolitan town right outside of New York City. It was pretty diverse. There was a lot going on, but my world was actually quite small. I didn't realize it at the time, and I was not at all unhappy. But coming here, the people that I met, the people of completely different backgrounds, completely different ways of thinking, ideas, subjects, politics, really almost every aspect. Touched something new, opened up a world of curiosity, has made me that hokey phrase, lifelong learner, but I really just feel like I can never stop reading enough or asking questions of folks, and I applaud recent efforts to reach out even more and to look for best and brightest and to create an environment where everybody's not only has an opportunity, maybe is even forced a little bit because it's life-changing and it's wonderful. So thank you.
Thank you. I wonder if Kim Hedberg will ever come up to. Oh, hey.
My name is Kim Hedberg. I'm from the class of 1981, and I am most thankful for Amherst for building B-Dorm. In B-Dorm, I put together a group of 10 people, the first co-ed 10 at Amherst College. We lived on the second floor. Bob was one of our awesome roommates, Emily. That created a community that you cannot have imagined because we had people like David Balin and Bob Saul and Kim and Emily and a couple of people from the class above us. And it's just not something, we were not people that would hang out normally. And we used to go to, once a month we'd go out to dinner, and I still have a picture of Bob walking by Drew and I as we went down to go 10. And we were drinking Mai Tais with umbrellas, and Bob walked in and he said, "Oh yes, one for the table," for everyone on the table. So at any rate, Amherst is the place that I grew up, and you are all my family, and I am most grateful for that.
You put it that way, Kim, and I'm sorry I dangled the vacuum cleaner outside your window.
Hi, I'm Lisa Laporte, class of 1981. I think this may have happened at any school I'd gone to, but somehow when I came here, I came with a whole set of notions about who I was and what I was going to do and what I was going to be. And then I proceeded to fail freshman year completely. And I had to somehow figure out what I wanted to do and how I was going to succeed. And I think somehow I was very safe here when that happened. And so I was able to drop courses that weren't suited to me, or just somehow everything that I was pre-med when I came. And and then somehow I ended up a drama major, But maybe freshman year when you're doing freshman plays and you don't have time to have the tutor to get through physics and advanced calculus, you need to recalibrate. But that's what I was able to do here. And also, thank you, Amherst, for taking women and me and getting to be here. But, exposed to an incredible group of people here. Thank you.
Thanks very much. I know last time we did this, some people got up and they had professors that they wanted to call out to. I know I had a bunch of great professors, Rick Griffiths, Ben DeMott, Hugh Hawkins. I really like Dave Sofield, and I probably wouldn't be writing as I do as professionally today if it weren't for having Sofield for English 11. So that's another thanks. I see somebody coming down the aisle here, and it's you.
I'm Rand Cooper, class of 80, but I stayed back, so I ended up in the class of 81. I do want to thank a couple of professors, and Cam's words made me think of it. But I really want to thank the Amherst English department, and this is the right place to be doing that, David Sofield included. And I do want to say about David Sofield that he has the best hair of any professor who has ever taught here. And although he's now 80 years old, he still has that hair. It's amazing. I was complimenting him on that the other day. I've been a writer and an editor for pretty much the entire time since we graduated, and it's not imaginable to me that that would have happened if I had not studied English here. And I remember, for those, how many of you took English 11? Do you remember when they still existed at the time? We had to, right? So, but although soon after that it was made optional. And I remember being baffled by some of the questions that we were asked in English 11. They just were not the same kinds of questions that we were asked in high school. And one that came up over and over again, I will never forget this, is what is the experience of reading this text? Now in high school English, we've been taught, like, you figure out what is the writer saying, you sort of get the main points. There are always like universal truths about humanity, and then you write papers with great topic sentences like, you know, when Steinbeck wrote The Grapes of Wrath, it was this great universal statement about human suffering. And and suddenly now we're asked, like, what is the experience of reading this text? And I remember we would say to each other, well, what am I supposed to write? Like, I'm sitting on the bus, you know, I'm reading it, it's pretty bouncy. What's interesting to me looking back is that we were cast into a sort of temporary bafflement by, and I know you're supposed to ring the gong, but, you know, we're obviously, yeah. You're cast into this period of temporary bafflement where you're not really sure what's being asked of you. And in that period, the presuppositions that you were used to acting on are gradually sort of being pushed to the side, and new ones are going to come in. And what I learned just as a writer and as a reader was that I was now going to have to reorient from figuring out, like, the 6 things that this text was about that I could sort of state objectively to, thinking about the writer. The writer. What is the writer doing? Somehow I'd gotten through high school English without ever really thinking about, this writer actually writes very differently from that writer. Writer A can write about the exact same universal themes as writer B, but it's totally different. And that's the beginning of a kind of recognition that, you know, helps you become someone who might be able to try to make a career and a profession out of reading and writing. So I do thank Sofield for that, but I particularly want to single out one person. He's still here, the most senior member of the faculty, and that's Bill Pritchard. And Bill Pritchard, enigmatic, even cryptic person at times. How many of you took courses with him? So, you know, he would often, you'd say something and he would make this gesture like, you know, like, whoa. And he'd say something, 2 or 3 words, you know, you weren't quite sure where he was coming from, but bit by bit, you understood what his take on literature was and how deeply he appreciated really pretty much every line of everything that he ever read. He's still, these days, he's like 85 years old, he still teaches a class here, he still writes, he publishes book after book, and I want to thank him and the English department for a combination of 2 qualities that go together interestingly, and one is irony. And by irony, I mean it broadly construed, the ability to see different levels of meanings and things, and also sort of a humorous, at times, indirect take on things. And the second thing is idealism, and that's the idealism of caring actually about the thing for itself, in itself. And that applies to anything that we all do, and I think we learned that in different departments at Amherst. You know, whatever it is you're doing, you're caring about the thing itself for what it is, and for its own qualities. And the last thing I'll say about the English department is I didn't realize until today that they've added, that's a portrait of Richard Wilbur, one of the great and still living and still productive poets of Amherst College. So thank you to the Amherst English department.
Did anybody get that on tape? There's a capital campaign coming up for the college, and I think that should be on the website.
So, I got to stop being so polite and come up before somebody like Rand gives a talk like that, because yet self-Deutsch, okay. But because I'm going to get sort of heavy on you. I'm John Torpy, sorry. Sorry? Yeah, right. So what I want to say is basically what I'm thankful for is, it goes back to an episode that happened my freshman year, I think first semester. I was in a class on the American Revolution with Hugh Hawkins, a historian of education here, and we were discussing whatever we were discussing, and after class, there was a guy in the class who was a senior, and he came up to me and he wanted to talk to me, and I was sort of baffled, like, why does this guy want to talk to me? I mean, where I went to high school, there was a kind of a hierarchy of, you know, seniors and senior football players, and then other people like me below that, you know, and I was not used to the experience of somebody who was a senior who would want to talk to me as a freshman. So I was trying to figure out what was going on, and I realized that, he just wanted to talk about what we'd been talking about in class. And I thought, I'm in the right place. I mean, this is the place for me. And, it really is about, the gift is this gift of knowledge for its own sake. It has not been a lucrative gift, I have to say. But, we were just at a session a minute ago about, people reinventing themselves and starting over, and, when the kids leave the house and that sort of thing. And I feel like, I get to do what I love every day. I'm still basically a student, who kind of writes books now and then. And it's a great thing. I have a life where I don't think about, like, the kinds of compromises that, you were talking about in that last session. And, I mean, most of the time, occasionally. But, yeah, it's a fantastic thing. I get paid, and of course, Carolyn will appreciate this, I get paid to talk, which anybody who knows me knows I will do for free. But the fact is, I get paid to talk, and that's enough. Okay. That's all I wanted to say. But, this is a great place.
So I will go briefly here on behalf of my wife. We're very lucky to live in this town, and I'm grateful to Amherst College, and I know Katie is too, for exposing us to the wonderful valley, a place we moved back to, raised our kids, and continue our affiliation with the college very closely, Katie especially, obviously. What's most interesting is seeing these freshmen come in every year, and they're so bright-faced and anxious and happy and curious and open. And then to see them kind of mature over time and how they change, and watching that change and I get only tangential exposure to it, and I try to get close to it as much as I can. Being close to youth is obviously something that keeps us younger. So my personal gratitude to Amherst College is that exposure to youth and watching these young people grow, have the experience that we had in its many flavors, and then seeing them benefit from that learning over time.
Thank you, Bob.
Hi, Paul Faxon, class of 81. So I want to thank Amherst for the intimacy of learning that is Amherst. I can't imagine having gone to an undergraduate school where it was me and 500 of my closest friends in a lecture hall and a TA discussion seminar once a week. And for me, the apogee of that was my senior year. I did my dissertation with Professor Fogelsong, and it was really the first time that I really was able to design my own curriculum. I wasn't a passive learner. I was really structuring what that academic endeavor would look like. And there was that sort of connection, our weekly meetings and the like, that you can't put a monetary value on it. And I remember near the end when my dissertation was just about done, he invited me to a dinner. So I went to his house in Amherst, and there were like 3 members of the political science department and their spouses, and there was me. That was it. And I was like, wow, that's really extraordinary, that there's that sense of community, that the faculty is so connected to the students. So that's what I'm thankful for.
How are we doing time-wise? All right, so we still got time.
Right, she did, Sam. I'm Amy Skilbred, the class of 1981, and I'm thankful for being able to have a liberal arts education that allowed you to be a generalist. A lot of people dove deep into areas, and that was great as well, but being a generalist has allowed me to be incredibly nimble in what I pursue. Being someone who learned how to think critically and how to write while I was at Amherst, and being able to take that and go into maybe 15 different types of jobs, just a variety of things, and know that you don't know everything, but you can find people who know the depth, and you're able to take their wisdom and help direct it so that you can affect some change. So that's what I'm thankful for.
Thanks, Amy. We have a race here. Oh. Erica wins.
Thanks, Cam. Hi, I'm Erica Martin, class of 81. And, you know, I don't think it mattered what I would have majored in. In fact, geology was somewhat random. But I'm really grateful for two things at Amherst. One is this nurturing of a habit of curiosity and of asking the next question and not stopping until I feel like I get an answer or I've explored the resources out there in whatever it is. Because I think that things are changing so much in the world that it doesn't really matter what you study. It's more important that you know how to learn. But I'm also really grateful for our class and the incredible people who informed my experience at Amherst. And I'm just having this wonderful time this weekend reconnecting with people and talking with people who I might not have actually been, you know, close with at Amherst, or our paths didn't cross that much, and learning about what they're doing in life. So that's sort of like, you know, the curated class of all these interesting, curious, well-rounded people who I'm really appreciating being a part of.
Thank you. And so I guess that wraps. Oh.
I'm John Moses, class of 1981, like many others here today, and I came up with, I thought was going to be, what's the one thing I'm thankful for? But in what I do, you always have to make 3 points. So, and I thought about it for a minute, and a couple recurring themes have come back to me in the last couple days. Am I out of time yet? And the first thing, the first guy I want to thank is Gene Wilson, who was the admissions director when my father entered Amherst in, I think it was 1950, and took a chance. My dad got a full ride here, and I wouldn't have shown up here unless that happened. And he was the progressive Katie Fretwell of the day, and the, you know, the Dean Wall of his day. And I'm thankful for that path that I was put on, you know, as a legacy kid, and had a couple siblings here too. But the college is, and you know, the recent what Biddy talked about this morning in terms of how the college has done well in terms of attracting talent. There's a huge legacy there, and Wilson was one of these guys, and I'm thankful for what he did for my father, class of 1955. Second, and kind of sticks in my mind, and I wasn't a history guy, or an American Studies professor, but I took a couple of classes with Gordy Levinson, and I still remember what we talked about. And the passion of getting through 500 pages a week, I don't know how I ever did that, but I was always excited about that. And his enthusiasm for teaching and prodding people to John, it's not, you know, there were actually 2 arguments to the Vietnam War, not just one. And you know, the lasting experience of that teaching experience. And similarly, my thesis advisor, senior year, Bill Taubman, who, as I was telling somebody earlier today, it's the fear that you approach that 2 hours every Friday afternoon to explain what you did on your thesis that week was a learning experience. And I usually ran out of things to say after about an hour, and Bill would encourage me for another hour, and it came together, and I actually finished my first draft and graduated. And so that was second thing. And third thing, and before I run out of time, and are we out? I'm out. But third thing, and it's what Erica kind of stole my thunder, because I think what I heard from her was exactly what I was thinking about, the renewal. And either while I was here, I had a number of disappointments and failures, and always found something else to do. And you know, all the calamity about the college this past year and some people think it's not calamity and think it's a good thing, but it created a lot of concern, but hearing about it and talking with people today and last couple of days about that, again, I feel renewed about the community I'm a part of, and I'm thankful for that.
Sherry, the gong has been temporarily retired. However, it will be brought back in extreme circumstances.
I'm glad to be the in extremis, Sherry Wasserman Goodman. It's really great to be here with everyone. I'm going to start where John just left off, because Bill Taubman was also my thesis advisor. And I got here and I was like, I got to see Bill. And I called him and I left a message, and he and Jane just called me from Moscow. And they were so excited that we were here, and he's finishing the book. You know, he wrote basically the definitive biography of Khrushchev. He's now finishing, as Andy probably knows, the definitive biography of Gorbachev, for which he's in Moscow. But I credit Bill and other faculty. I think I took every Gordy Levin course here and loved diplomatic history. Wrote my thesis under Bill in Henry Steele Comminger's office, because he was on sabbatical that year. And were it not for that experience, that really launched my whole career. I was always passionate about international affairs. I wrote this thesis on the neutron bomb controversy, a case study in alliance politics, which was published as a book a couple of years after we graduated. And I've basically been in that field as it's transformed and evolved from nuclear weapons and arms control, which is where I started, to really environmental security, climate change, and clean energy with the military for the last 35 years. And it's been very rewarding. And I have to credit Amherst for that, for giving us the passion, the purpose, and the wherewithal to sort of stick through things. And I love coming back to these reunions. I haven't missed one. I love to see each of you reconnect, make new connections. And when people come to DC, and you're all invited, and I now at the Woodrow Wilson Center bring interns come in, and Amherst interns, they come down now for a public policy, some kind of session, and it's always great to see their enthusiasm and passion, and I can see some of what we were reflected back at us in the youth of today. So it's great to be here with all of you, and I'm so grateful for having had that Amherst experience with each of you.
Hi, I'm Sam DeSimone, class of '81. I'd like to thank the admissions office for letting me in. I heard it was quite a stretch.
Hi, I'm Paul Howes, class of '81. I'd like to thank Amherst for the times that I didn't feel safe. And those, the three that come to mind were all freshman year. The first one was going up to Professor Epstein. He was my advisor, and I was really excited and happy, and I expected him to pat me on the back and tell me how happy he was that I was here. And he was like, "Kid, you're wasting my time. What are you doing here? You know, go out and learn something." And I walked away wilted. The second was one of the first meetings in our dorm when our dorm advisor, Sully, said, "Do everything, do anything, do whatever you want." And I was waiting to hear, you know, "Don't do this, don't do that, don't do that." And that was kind of scary. And the third thing was getting my first English paper back from Chick Chickering. And there was way more writing on his part than on mine. And I remember sitting out on the steps of this chapel and thinking, this is not going to work out. I'm not going to make it. So it's good practice to be frightened, and I thank Amherst for that.
Kevin, it's your turn. Sorry.
Well, a couple things came to mind. I do want to thank Bill Taubman for giving me a B on a paper I never finished. That was really nice of him, and I did an all-nighter and I never got it done. But I have to say, I think what I'm grateful for is that my father did pressure me into double majoring in economics, and that I went through that department, which was very male-dominated, and I don't think I had maybe the whatever Christine Neuer had to ace it and get the incredible thesis honors that she got in that department. But I think being in classrooms that were really very male-dominated enabled me to go on and be a corporate lawyer and walk into boardrooms where I was frequently the only woman in the room. And I frequently was the only woman in the room with 9 men, 10 men, 8 men, all the clients were men, and I would run the meeting. And it would always just end up, I was the one running the meeting. And I got that from here. And it was hard. And I have not been ginger since I've been here, by the way. I'm Virginia Howard. Because the first time I walked in to a boardroom, a conference room, and we're negotiating a transaction, I was introduced for ginger. I went, oh my God, where are the pom-poms? Where's the ball gown? Where's my friend Marianne? It wasn't going to work anymore. And so, but I really think, I got that out of here, and I'm thankful.
It would be a rare event that this class held where Kevin Ellis didn't come up and say something. Get the gong ready.
There was an African studies English professor named Andrea Rushing, who taught me the term horizontal massage when talking about sex in some poetry or something. And I've never forgotten that. So thank you, Amherst. Thank you, Austin Sarrett, for calling me up and calling me over to his office and saying, and putting this paper. I think I had been out all night the night before doing something else, and he just said, I don't know, I can't remember, but he said, we're going to do this over again. It's not gradable. So, he just called the question, right? What Paul said, right? He just sort of said, this is just terrible. Just go do it over. And, he forced you to face yourself. So, and then, so I take my kids every once in a while to the Museum of Fine Arts in Boston, and there's a tiny little Rembrandt there of the artist in his studio. And Joel Upton, who used to break down in tears, that's, wow, he's crying. I'm sitting there, right? I'm the freshman, and this guy's weeping at the Jan van Eyck on the screen. And I got to take a whole semester with him on Rembrandt. And my paper was where is the light coming from in the artist in his studio painting? And I had no freaking idea where it was. So, and in the end of the semester, he told me, and obviously the light is coming from the canvas itself and all that implies. And so I bore my kids with that. But, to have a professor like that, like Sarrett to do that, and Upton to break down into tears in that kind of way is, thanks, Amherst.
Thank you. $331. All right, I'd say, are there any questions? But I think, really, you've all done a great job just coming up to the thing and saying thanks. Because it's one of those things that, people go through a college, 4 years go really quickly, and you don't know. They say come to reunions, meet your classmates for the first time. It's nice to just stop and say thank you. So thank you all for coming. That's my last thanks is to you.